Hey, what's up, everybody? Eric Duffett here, ready to take you through part 4 of our Firebase tutorial. Now jumping over to reading data from our database. So in our last tutorial, we put data in at our user's node. We gave this person an age, first name, and last name. And now we are going to read that data and put it in our label that says no user info right now. We're going to do it when we tap this button. So let's jump over to our code. I am in the dbRead view controller, and just like before, we need to import Firebase and set up our database reference. So this is going to be just like before. Database reference, just like that. Sorry if I jumped there. I had to pause and move locations. So we have our import Firebase, we have database, we have our reference, and now we're ready to go. So we want to get the current user's info from our database when they tap the button. So just like before, we want to make sure that there is a current user before we get any further than that. So let's do if let current user, and this uses Firebase auth. And I'm going to just grab the UID. All right, and so if we have a current user, then we will grab their UID and put it in current user. And now we can read data from the database. So we will do ref.child, and this was at child users.child current user. And remember, that's because we have our database, we have this child users, and then the current user's UID is right here, and that UID is holding the data. So now we can go observe single event of data event type with data snapshot. Okay, so make sure you get this observe single event right here. Okay, and so what this does is this just a single time will look at our database where we tell it to look. There is a different function that we could, instead of observe single event, we could just simply observe data event type. Okay, this, as you can see, your block will be triggered for the initial data and again whenever the data changes. So this just observe keeps an open connection to the database and will always be looking for things to change. So if you use this one, you have to close it, otherwise you will be reading data forever, and it just could run up your data usage. So we're just going to read once here. Okay. We want to observe the dot value. Okay, and if you just put a dot in here, you should, maybe if I go back, data event type, and do dot, either, oh, there we go. So it'll populate, but with what I'm running right now, it can't keep up with me. So we're going to do dot value. You could put a dot there and see the different options that can be found in the documentation. I'm going to double click, and I get a closure that asks for a data snapshot and then goes in here. So I'm going to replace data snapshot with snapshot. And I just want to see what comes back in this snapshot. So let's do that. So I'm going to run it. And jump over to my dbReads, hit, I would like to clear this out so I can see exactly what I'm getting back. There is my snap. So you can see I have Snap with my user ID, age 21, first name Firebase, last name demo. And so this it comes back essentially as a dictionary with our keys over here and our values over here. So that's what we're going to do to read this data out of the dictionary. So I am going to safely unwrap the dictionary. Let me just make sure. So let's see, snapshot.value. So yes, this is an optional. So let's do if let dictionary equals snapshot value as NS dictionary. That should work. Okay. So again, this comes back as a dictionary data type, and now we can read data from this dictionary. So one thing is, let's see if I click on this. So you can see as I option click on this, this can come back as a dictionary, an array, a number, or a string. And it doesn't know what's going to come back. And in order to be able to use this value as a dictionary, I have to say, hey, I'm expecting to get a dictionary here so that I can do the next step in this process. So now I can say let first equals dictionary, and if you've been with us for any length of time, you know how to access the first name key in this dictionary here. So that's going to grab Firebase. We can do the same thing. Let last equals dictionary last name, and let age equals dictionary and age. Okay, and so let's just print first, print last, print age. And as I do that, you may have noticed what was happening. So if I click on this first, you can see it's coming back as an any. Doesn't know the data type for what we're going to pull out of this dictionary, because it can be, again, let's see, it can come back as a dictionary, an array, a number, or a string. And so we have to tell it what kind of data to expect. So I'm going to do that. And so I want this to say first will be a string when I click on it. So I'm going to do as string. Let's see if that changes. So now I have an optional string. Great. As string, and then this one will be an integer. So now when I option click, I get a string, I get a string, I get an age. All right, and the last piece is all of these are optionals. And so there's a number of ways to handle the fact that these are optionals. I'm going to do it by giving it a nil coalescing operator and just setting some default values in case something goes wrong and I don't get all of the information I'm expecting when I read from the database. So I'm going to do double question mark, and then I'm just going to say no first name found. I'm going to go here and say no last name found, and this one we will just put default of 0. So these double question marks allow me to set a default value in the case that no data is found. And now when I click here, you can see it's no longer optional. It will return a string. And we'll need that when we update our label, which just happens to be our last step. So let's do self.userinfo label.text equals hello first name last name first space last. Let's go to a new line. It looks like you are age years old. All right. So now when we run this, when we tap the button, we're checking to see if there's a current user. If there is, we are going to observe the database once. It's going to print out the snapshot that we get. We are going to get the value of that snapshot and convert it to an NS dictionary. And then for these three keys, first name, last name, and age, we are going to put them into a string. So let's see if we did this correctly. Tap, boom, there we go. So hello Firebase demo, it looks like you are 21 years old. So there's my snapshot being printed out. There are my three values, first, last, and age, and my label updates. So if I go into my demo, if I change my age to, let's say 100, if I change my first name to demo and my last, oh, it didn't like that, demo, change my last name to Firebase. Now, nothing should update immediately. We have it only observing when we tap the button. So if we tap the button, you can see pretty quickly it changes. Hello, demo Firebase. It looks like you are 100 years old. Pretty awesome stuff. We can go over here and say, Eric Duffett, 34. Watch it change over there. Oh, apparently I haven't. Okay, so there you go. This is a perfect example. Apparently I commented out some code for our other video, and all I updated was my age. So now, when we read here, let's see if we've safely unwrapped everything. Hello, no first name found, no last name found. It looks you are 34 years old. So seeing the value of the nil coalescing operators to make sure that we didn't get a crash. Had we used the exclamation points in these, it would have crashed right there. But since we safely unwrapped everything, we didn't get a crash. It just says, sorry, no data there, but you are 34 years old. So the last thing I want to do here is, and I jumped screens. The last thing I want to do here is, it's pretty unlikely that we want to have to tap button all the time in order to read data from the database. Typically, we're often going to read data from the database as soon as the app loads. So I want to show you how we can use this same code to just read data as soon as the app loads up here. So let's just copy this, and inside of our view did load, we can paste that in, and now it should read as soon as we get to that screen over there. I'm going to run this. I want to have a first name and a last name, so I am going to update this. Change my code when I had the video paused so that this should work now. And now when I jump over here, boom, hello Eric Duffett, it looks like you're 34 years old. That didn't even flicker. It grabbed the information so quickly that we couldn't even see that placeholder label. Yeah, it's happening so fast. So awesome stuff. And of course, if I come over here, let's see, 36. Will it read again? It won't read again, so it's only called the view did load once. So I'm going to have to tap get user info in order to update that there. So we could keep reading updates, and so that when I change it to 36, it would have known about it immediately. Or we could put this code in the view will appear rather than the view did load. So again, there's other ways to do this, but we're just getting started, so we're going to keep it simple and only observe a single event. In our next video, we are going to save some profile pictures. So stay tuned.